All right. Good morning, guys. Back at it again with another MLB DFS video. Just recapping yesterday. Absolutely nuclear. Uh, we had Garrett Cole pitch a complete game. Brazen Stott first debut hits a solo homer. We had four Phillies, two KC guys, two Boston guys. Basically, Philly pretty chalky guys, and they got to us. Garrett Cole got 67 in the win with 10 Ks. What did you take from that slate yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, I think we landed on the right spots. We were about 30 points over the line in most tournaments. Philly obviously nuked. I mean, they dropped 14. So if you had just like any pieces at all, you were doing well. We had the 1 through 4 there. We picked up some pieces in Kansas City just because they were pretty cheap. Bobby Witt was 2,900, Melendez 2,700. Pasquantino was the same price as Melendez, and I was debating between the two of them, and then Pasquantino went out. So that would have helped if we had him too, made another 20 points. But it is what it is. And then had some of the leadoff guys on Boston who scored fine. Like Verdugo had like 15, and I guess the top stacks in the end were Philly and Tampa. Tampa had a couple homers, and especially at the bottom of the order, like Bethencourt got there, and Diaz had like 18. Josh Lowe had 28. Uh, yeah, I think we were in the right spots. I mean, pitcher was good too. I was also debating between Gallon, and he was really good for his price. He had 50 at 8,900. But Cole obviously was the smash spot, 67. Yeah,
I
can't
just
really complain about
remember,
that.
I remember texting you like, "Oh my God, he got to 7. Oh shit, he got to 8." I was like, "There's no way he goes 9." And then you texted me Cole complete game. I'm like, "There's no shot." And updated, I'm like, "Oh my God,
Yeah, I think
probably
he was
going."
right at like 109 pitches, so he was still within reach of his pitch limit. But
Yeah,
uh, that was good to see. And today's slate looks a little more boring. We got cores on the slate, and then just a bunch of meh. So it's going to be hard to really prioritize anything.
yeah. You want to get into pitchers real quick? There's only about
Yeah,
like 3 or 4 that are within consideration. So real quick, DeGrom, Gosman, Corbin Burns, Christian Javier are the top 4, and I agree with pretty much that. DeGrom is projected for 40%. Gosman is 11-1 projected for 1. Corbin Burns 10 flats at 12. Christian Javier kind of stands out. I know Toronto kind of hasn't been scoring that much, but we all know that you know they can just drop like 15 runs like out of nowhere. But I think it's got to be between DeGrom and Javier. And Javier is just a cheaper out of those guys, and we know he's a pretty good pitcher. But what do you think?
yeah. Javier is decent. But we know he's a ground ball pitcher. I'm just when you're looking for the upside, that's why everyone's flocking to Degrom, especially at 10-6. Usually you get that 11K price tag for Degrom. So I get the ownership. He just played Kansas City. He just went 7 against them, had like 48 or something. So I mean, I totally get the Degrom ownership. I don't know if I need to get away from it. I might just get contrarian with my stacks because everyone's going to be on cores.
Mhm.
Um, he seems like the safest, especially with how bad Kansas City has been. Um, Gaussman at 1% is like okay, just because he's 1%. But Houston's a tough out anytime you go out there. Corbin Burns looks good. He had a good start last week. And then he's playing Seattle, who's hit or miss. So 10K flat for him, getting about 10% looks good. And then yeah, Javier probably rounds out the pool. May is like a dart throw out at like 9,500, but I'd rather just pay up for the other guys. And then that's pretty much it. I'm not playing Peterson. I'm not playing Merrill Kelly. I'm not playing Flaherty. Like these guys are just dust balls at the bottom. So it's got to
Yeah,
be one of the 10K pitchers, and then just build out from there.
yeah. Dustin May, I was kind of looking at, but even like last year when I would play MLB, anytime I had a pitcher against the Mets, they would drop like 10 runs. So I'm not doing that again this year. But then, the next start, the Mets would have like 2 runs total. But I'm not doing that again this year. I think it's between Javier and DeGrom, and it makes sense with DeGrom with the great matchup. Javier, I think he'll be fine. Burns, to get Corbin Burns, like if you're debating on Javier, Burns is only an extra $100. But anyway, well, that was
Yeah, if you're looking for the tournament upside, definitely go Burns, I think, because he's got the 10K upside. Well, Javier, that's a bit of a stretch.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that was pitchers because the slate is freaking cheeks.
Yep.
So for top stacks, my laptop is bugging out. So cores like usual, because that's exactly what we need. Colorado, Pittsburgh, Atlanta, Texas, St. Louis. What stacks do you like besides cores? Like, is there another team that stands out that isn't really getting much love on the stacks tool?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, so the top stack percentages drop off dramatically between Colorado, Pittsburgh, and then everyone else. It's like 15 to 7%, but they're obviously going to gain like 25% as a stack for both of them. And if you're getting 10% Atlanta, 10% Texas, 10% Dodgers, like I'd rather just take my shots there, at least for secondary stacks. Like even if you just want to target one side of the cores, you're going to be different by not picking a bunch of pieces from there. And then, taking your stance on one of those 3 other teams. I do think those are my priorities on the secondaries between Atlanta, Texas, and the Dodgers. Atlanta and the Dodgers are both pretty expensive, so it might be tough to fit with the cores bats because they're probably priced up a bit. But that's where I'm going to try to prioritize if I can land there. Chicago's kind of interesting. You were talking about them a little bit. I get it. Just a bad park for me, so I might stay away. And then don't really see much else that I like right now.
Yeah, there really isn't much. It's kind of cores and then pick your secondary stack between Atlanta, Texas. I guess maybe a couple St. Louis bats, but Merrill Kelly is slightly above air. I don't even know how to describe. He's not a bad pitcher. He's had his moments where he's looked like the worst pitcher in the MLB, but he's a pretty good pitcher. This just seems to be a slate where everything is kind of like set already, and it's like you kind of have to do that. It's getting different in this slate is kind of rough. I mean, unless like you said, Atlanta, Texas, even the Dodgers, they look pretty good. I was even thinking Milwaukee a little bit if you wanted to get a couple bats from them. Chris Flexen, his last start, he didn't look that good. Milwaukee's just like Rowdy Tellez has been swinging the bat like crazy. Who's that other guy? Adames has been pretty decent lately. So again, I wouldn't really prioritize them, but that's if you really want to be different. But this is a slate where you kind of have to go cores and then pick a secondary stack between Atlanta and Texas.
Like we saw yesterday, we knew Philly was going to gain a lot of ownership. I mean, Schwarber was like 40% in the big tournaments. Trey Turner was like 30%. But if you faded them, you were toast. I mean, they both dropped like 25. And the rest of the stack absolutely went off. So, like, ownership works to an extent in terms of like fading for leverage. But when they're in such good spots compared to the rest of the slate, you might be dead in the water by like the 3rd inning. So, if you want to get different, I would just take one side of the game and then prioritize somewhere else.
Mm-hmm. All right. You ready for the home run calls?
Yes, sir.
Do you want to go first?
Sure. So I'm going to go back to the well with Bregman here. I know he has not come through for me yet. I swear every time I take him, he hits a nuke the next slate. So I'm just going to I'm gonna ride him today, and hopefully he hits. I'm gonna take Connor Joe back playing against his old team, former team factor, and then CJ Cron in the same game to go yard.
Yeah, cores you can't really hide from, but I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go Brian Reynolds, facing Freeland. At cores. I'm gonna take Ryan McMahon against Rich Hill at cores, and then I'm gonna go Jazz Chisholm.
I like those.
I think we're pretty confident, knock on wood, just because of the game environment, that our Pittsburgh, Colorado guys can do something. We need to really get one. I'm like home run call deprived. Is there anything else you want to talk about? I think we're all set.
Yeah, I mean, I think that pretty much covers it. You got cores, and then you got those three major teams with the Braves, Rangers, Dodgers, all in consideration. And then on the outside looking in is probably like Cards, Astros, but those are like way out there, minimal ownership guys. So just prioritize those bats, and then pitching is going to be interesting. If DeGrom gets there, you're pretty much toast. So ride or die with him if you want.
I got a feeling I might make my own lineup and throw DeGrom in if we end up not going DeGrom, but who knows? It might screw me over in the end. All right. We're all good. I'm kind of just peeking around last second to make sure I didn't miss anything I wanted to say.
Yeah. Just make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll be back here tomorrow. And we appreciate you guys for watching.